Welcome to Midday Prime. Over the next 1 hour, we'll bring you all the stories and updates from India and the world. We will update you about the happenings in the world of business and sports. Our top focus will be on India's fight against COVID-19 in view of PM's interaction with field officials from states and districts today. And we will bring you the latest updates on relief and rescue operations in Gujarat and Maharashtra in the aftermath of Cyclone Taukte. But first up, the big news at this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacts with field officials from states and districts about their experiences in handling the pandemic. PM stresses on making local containment zones key in India's battle against COVID-19, urges them to spread awareness in rural areas on following COVID protocols, urges focus on testing, tracking, isolation, treatment and COVID-appropriate behavior. Continuous fall in daily cases of COVID-19 in India. In last 24 hours, total cases stand at over 2,63,000, over 4,22,000 recoveries recorded, 4,329 deaths reported in 24 hours. Recovery rate stands at 85.6%. Over 18 crore 44 lakh beneficiaries vaccinated so far. Cyclone Taukte weakens after making landfall at Gujarat coast. NDRF chief says the worst is over and the cyclone will weaken into a deep depression by the evening. NDRF, Navy, Air Force and Coast Guard carry out relief operations. Around 2 lakh people evacuated to safer places in Gujarat. 146 persons rescued by the Indian Navy from a barge off Mumbai coast. BJP slams the Congress, accuses it of spreading falsehoods on COVID-19 and the vaccination drive. BJP spokesperson Sambit Patra says the Congress is conspiring to defame Prime Minister Narendra Modi with the help of a toolkit. Portals of Badrinath Shrine opened today amidst religious rituals. Prayers performed on behalf of Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the welfare and well-being of people. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Tirath Singh Rawat wishes good luck to people on the occasion and affirms that health is the priority of the government. Israel-Palestine conflict continues. US attempts to broker peace between the warring sides. US President Joe Biden talks to Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on phone, advocates ceasefire at the border. Let's begin the show with the big news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held an interaction with field officials from states and districts today to converse with them about their experiences in handling the pandemic. Officials from Karnataka, Bihar, Assam, Chandigarh, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand, MP, Goa, Himachal Pradesh and Delhi took part in the meeting. Prime Minister Modi stressed that in the battle against this virus, focus needs to be on testing, tracking, isolation, treatment, COVID-appropriate behavior and local containment zones, as well as making containment guidelines in such a manner that ease of living is not impacted.
संक्रमण को भी रोकना है और दैनिक जीवन से जुड़ी जरूरी सप्लाई को भी बेरोक टोक चलाना है। इसलिए स्थानीय स्तर पर कंटेनमेंट के लिए जो भी गाइडलाइन जारी की गई है, उनका पालन कराते समय इस पर भी गौर करना है कि गरीब को परेशानी कम से कम हो, किसी भी नागरिक को परेशानी ना हो।
Prime Minister also highlighted continuous efforts by the centre to increase the supply of COVID vaccines on a large scale. The Health Ministry is streamlining the system and process of vaccination, and attempts are being made to give a schedule of the next 15 days to the states in advance.
टीकाकरण कोविड से लड़ाई का एक सशक्त माध्यम है, इसलिए इससे जुड़े हर भ्रम को हमें मिलकर के उसको निरस्त करना है। कोरोना के टीके की सप्लाई को बहुत बड़े स्तर पर बढ़ाने के निरंतर प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं। वैक्सीनेशन के लेकर व्यवस्थाओं और प्रक्रियाओं को हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री लगातार स्ट्रीमलाइन कर रही है। कोशिश ये है कि अगले 15 दिन का शेड्यूल राज्यों को एडवांस में मिल जाए। इससे आपको भी पता रहेगा कि जिले में कितने लोगों के लिए वैक्सीन उपलब्ध होने जा रही है और आपको किस हिसाब से तैयारी करनी है। वैक्सीन वेस्टेज रोकने में जिला स्तर पर सही प्रबंधन की भूमिका के बारे में भी आप अच्छी तरह जानते हैं। आपके सहयोग से वैक्सीन वेस्टेज पूरी तरह रुक सकती है। इतना ही नहीं, ऑप्टिमम यूटिलाइजेशन की दिशा में हम सफलतापूर्वक आगे बढ़ सकते हैं।
PM Modi urged district magistrates to avoid wastage of vaccines and ensure optimal utilization at district levels.
चुनौती बड़ी है, लेकिन हमारा हौसला उससे भी बड़ा है और हमारा रिस्पॉन्स न भूतो न भविष्यति ऐसा ही होना चाहिए। इसी हौसले और संकलन के साथ, इसी इरादे और संकल्प के साथ हम देश को इस संकट से बाहर निकालेंगे। अभी कोरोना के खिलाफ आपको जो अनुभव मिलेंगे वो भविष्य में भी आपके भी और देश के भी बहुत काम आने वाले हैं। इन अनुभवों का सही इस्तेमाल करके आप आगे भी देश की बड़ी सेवा कर सकते हैं। मुझे विश्वास है कि आपके सहयोग से, आपके कुशल नेतृत्व से, आपके कुशल प्रबंधन से भारत कोरोना के खिलाफ इस लड़ाई में मजबूती से आगे बढ़ेगा।
You heard the Prime Minister urge officials to innovate as per local needs and share feedback with the centre. Besides that, the Prime Minister also stressed on spreading awareness among the rural, peri-urban, semi-urban and other areas regarding COVID protocols and importance of vaccination.
आपको कहीं लगता है कि सरकार द्वारा बनाई पॉलिसी में जिला स्तर पर किसी इनोवेशन की जरूरत है, उस इनोवेशन में से पॉलिसी को ताकत मिलेगी, तो मेरा आपको खुली छूट है, आप जरूर कीजिए। अगर ये इनोवेशन आपके जिले की स्थानीय जरूरतों के हिसाब से है तो उसे उसी हिसाब में करिए। अगर आपको लगता है कि आपने जो इनोवेशन किया है वो पूरे प्रदेश के लिए या पूरे देश के लिए बेनिफिशियल है तो उसे सरकार तक भी पहुंचाइए। अगर आपको अपने अनुभवों से तेजी से बदलती परिस्थितियों के हिसाब से पॉलिसीज में किसी सुधार की जरूरत लगती है तो उसका भी फीडबैक जरूर पहुंचाइए, बिना संकोच पहुंचाइए।
Prime Minister commended state officials for playing a very important role in the battle against the pandemic and addressed them as field commanders of the battle.
कोरोना के खिलाफ इस युद्ध में आप सब लोग एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका में हैं। आप एक तरह से इस युद्ध के फील्ड कमांडर हैं। जैसा कि किसी भी युद्ध में होता है, फील्ड कमांडर बड़ी योजना को मूर्त रूप देता है, जमीन पर उस लड़ाई को लड़ता है, परिस्थिति के अनुसार निर्णय लेता है। आप सब भारत की इस लड़ाई के महत्वपूर्ण फील्ड कमांडर्स के रूप में आज नेतृत्व संभाल रहे हैं। और इस वायरस के खिलाफ हमारे हथियार क्या है? हमारे हथियार हैं लोकल कंटेनमेंट जोन्स, एग्रेसिव टेस्टिंग और लोगों तक सही और पूरी जानकारी। कोरोना की इस दूसरी वेव में अभी ग्रामीण और दुर्गम क्षेत्रों में हमें बहुत ध्यान देना है। इसमें फील्ड में बिताया हुआ आप सभी का अनुभव और आपकी कुशलता ये बहुत काम आने वाली है। हमें गांव-गांव में जागरूकता भी बढ़ानी है और उन्हें कोविड के इलाज की सुविधाओं से भी जोड़ना है। बढ़ते हुए केसों के और संसाधनों की सीमाओं के बीच लोगों की अपेक्षाओं को उचित समाधान देना हमारी सबसे बड़ी प्राथमिकता है। सारी चुनौतियों के बीच समाज के सबसे निचले छोर पर खड़े व्यक्ति का चेहरा ध्यान में रखते हुए हमें काम करना है।
So, our correspondents are joining us now. Arun Sharma is joining us. Well, Arun, the Prime Minister's focus has been over the past few weeks, particularly since cases started moving from urban areas to rural areas, on ensuring containment and prevention in semi-urban and rural areas. Having said that, did the Prime Minister give significant autonomy to field officials at the district and state level in his interaction, asking them to innovate as per local needs and give feedback to the centre?
Absolutely, Munmun. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has in a sense given a free hand to the field officers who are actually working on ground and, are fighting this war against COVID-19. The need of the hour, Munmun, we should understand this fact, is the best practices and innovation in order to combat the COVID-19 cases. Now, the good news is that in urban areas primarily, we have seen the decline in the number of cases as far as COVID is concerned. But the flip side of this is that in the rural areas, in tier 2 town, tier 3 town, in villages primarily, the number of cases, the positive cases are still rising up, as far as the COVID cases are concerned. And to fight this war against COVID-19 in the rural areas and villages primarily, the need of the hour is that how can the best practices and innovations can be replicated in these rural areas and villages so that the fight against COVID-19 can be intensified and we can stop or flatten the curve as far as COVID is concerned. Number two is about the awareness also. Because people in villages, there is lack of awareness. I had a telephonic conversation with few of the Gram Pradhans in some of the states. They told me primarily that even today, the people living in village, residing in village, they are not ready to accept that their fever or their coughing can be a COVID-19. They are taking home treatment. They are not going for testing and treatment purposes. And they are thinking that this is normal viral fever. But on the contrary, the idea is about spreading awareness. So in that context, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given, more power to the field officials that center designs a policy, keeping in mind entire country. But if in case some innovations or some addition in that policy is required to flatten the curve or the COVID-19 cases, or primarily to stop the virus from spreading, it is the need of the hour that innovations can be added to it so that entire state can benefit from it, and of course entire country finally can benefit from it. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also asked the field officials that they can write it to Prime Minister's office, all those who cannot make suggestions in front of Prime Minister Modi because of paucity of time, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will ensure this fact that the best practices by these field officials who are actually working on ground, that can be replicated in entire country whereby caseload is higher as compared to the other states or districts.
Right, Arun, the Prime Minister also said that while drawing COVID containment zones or local containment zones in these semi-urban and rural areas, the focus should also be on ensuring continuous ease of living, and basic supplies and medical supplies or supplies of daily use should not bear the brunt because of the local containment zone drawing up. So is that a fine balance that district officials will need to tread?
And these are some of the best practices as well, Gungun, that there are various ground officials, the district officials, the state officials, who are ensuring this fact that while marking the containment zones or while focusing on the containment zones, the ease of life of the people living in and around the containment zones are not disturbed. Because we know this fact that as soon as the containment zones is marked in any place where there are COVID cases or high number of COVID cases, over there is very much likelihood that the supply gets disrupted, be it the essential commodities, be it the medicine part. So this is some of the basic thing that is happening. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly focused upon the fact that you can win the fight against COVID-19 only by having dedicated containment zones, by marking the containment zones, testing, treating and tracking is the only solution, because more and more you test, more and more you get the COVID patients or the COVID positive people, and you need to make containment zones. So that's the idea of fight against COVID-19. But similarly, or parallelly, primarily, there is also a need to ensure that there is ease of life, ease of living for the people who are living in and around the containment zone. So the supplies, the important and essential supplies, that do not get disrupted. So in that context, primarily, there are various state officials who are actually working on this aspect, that how can, supplies can be ensured for the people who are living in multi-story buildings, for that matter, in multi-story apartment for that matter, or people who are living in a village area or the rural areas. So be it the urban areas or rural areas, these officers who are working on ground are actually ensuring this part, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi also highlighted this fact as far as ease of living and of course the containment zones that plays an important role as far as fight against COVID-19 is concerned.
Absolutely. So the focus continues to be on fighting the pandemic in rural and semi-urban areas as well, besides of course urban areas. Thank you, Arun, for those updates. Let's go across to Tapas, because Tapas is joining us with some other aspects of the fight against COVID-19 pandemic that India is waging. Tapas, the decision that was taken earlier by the center to drop plasma therapy from COVID-19 treatment guidelines. What went into this decision?
That's right. So, Munmun, it was the decision taken late yesterday night, and ICMR has dropped the plasma therapy from its clinical management protocol. The reason that ICMR says that different studies, both in India as well as outside abroad, especially prominent among them were the Lancet journal, which published a massive report which once again showcases that plasma therapy to patients for COVID-19 has not given a desired effect. In fact, along with a couple of other European countries, they have also come out with a similar sort of a report. India also had done a Placid trial report on the basis of this, and in that also it came out quite prominently that this particular plasma therapy, Covisint plasma therapy, does not in any way help the patient for recovering for the COVID-19. And in fact, we've been told that many physicians, many authority people who have authority on the subject have written to principal scientific secretary as well as to ICMR, along with other people, arguing for a discontinuation of this particular therapy, as it may in fact hamper or harm the health of the individual. So after much of deliberation, taking cue from all the reports that have come, be it in India as well as from the report generated outside India, the ICMR has, along with the Health Ministry, has decided to drop this particular therapy altogether from the clinical management protocol. And once again, it showcases that it has to be everything, each and every protocol or clinical thought that goes in has to come through a scientific process. And once again, it showcases that, and this is something that they have been talking about. ICMR has been already earlier revised many of the guidelines, but now it has finally dropped this particular Covisint therapy from its protocol.
Tapas, is there scientific evidence of far fewer instances of blood clotting in Indians after Covishield vaccination compared to European countries?
That's right. In fact, the report that has been given to the ministry, the Health Ministry, says that less than 1 in a million cases can develop this particular blood clotting for the vaccination, and it is something that if you take a close look at the reports published outside the country in Europe, there is 1 in 4 in a million cases, but in India it is less than a million cases that are there. In fact, the study in fact has gone through 75 million vaccination, people who have undergone, and it showcases that almost only 0.61 per million chances of vaccinations getting a serious cases of blood clots. And this is something that one has to understand, that this particular vaccine, or any vaccine for that matter, does create some sort of infection, and it can lead. But the number that has come out because of the particular study is very minuscule in nature, and that is something that will give a lot of cheer to the scientific community, because they've been talking about the fact that vaccination has to be given to each and every individual, and there were some people who were a little worried about what kind of reaction it will have. But this particular study showcases once again that there is hardly much of a problem in the vaccines, and only less than in fact 1 in a million people that may develop a reaction because of that. So as of now, it is quite safe to say that the vaccines are very safe, nothing to be worried about, and people should come out and get themselves get themselves vaccinated. The government reviewed that after almost 23,000 cases of adverse events following the immunization program, and the committee found that out of the 23,000 cases, almost 700 were severe, which were almost very less in terms of the numbers that we're talking about.
Absolutely. So cases extremely rare in Indians compared to those of European descent. Thank you, Tapas, for having joined us with that. Let's now move on to our developing story. Cyclone Taukte has weakened after making landfall at Gujarat coast. NDRF, Navy, Air Force and Coast Guard are carrying out relief operations. Around 2 lakh people have been evacuated to safer places in Gujarat. The remnant of the system is very likely to move northeastwards across Rajasthan to West Uttar Pradesh during the 19th and 20th of May. DG NDRF SN Pradhan said that the worst is over and the cyclone will deepen into a deep depression. It will weaken into a deep depression by the evening.
Currently, the cyclone has weakened into a cyclonic storm level, and probably in another couple of hours time or little more than that, it will become a cyclonic system or a cyclonic storm, which is much lower category. So basically what I'm trying to say is it has weakened considerably over land, and by the time it reaches the Gujarat coast sometime in the late evening today, it would have become a depression. So that is good news for the people of Gujarat. The SEOC has informed us and confirmed that there have been no deaths at all. So the zero casualty approach that with which we started, I think we have reasonably succeeded in that. Most of the villages were restored electricity, and by now I think everywhere electricity has been restored.
While rescue operations by NDRF are underway, the government is also making all efforts to minimize the loss. Additional Chief Secretary of Gujarat, Pankaj Kumar, today said that due to these efforts, the effect of the cyclone in Gujarat was limited.
शासन ने माननीय मुख्यमंत्री श्री के नेतृत्व में जिस तरह की व्यवस्था की थी और जिस स्तर का ये तूफान आया, उसमें काफ़ी नुकसान हो सकता था। जो अभी तक हमारे को जानकारी मिली है, उसमें वो नुकसान काफ़ी मर्यादित है।
He said that the biggest challenge faced by the government was to ensure continuous supply of electricity in the COVID centers across the state. He said that out of 1,400 COVID centers where arrangements were made, only 16 hospitals faced problems. He also said that the electricity has been restored in most villages.
सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज हमारे लिए कोविड में, जब कोविड के मरीज अस्पताल में इलाज ले रहे हों, वैसे में अस्पताल की बिजली का अविरत चालू रहना, जो हमारे 1400 से ज़्यादा जो कोविड सेंटर्स, हॉस्पिटल्स वगैरह हैं, हर जगह ये व्यवस्था की गई थी। और पूरे साइक्लोन के दरमियान सिर्फ 16 अस्पताल के इलेक्ट्रिक सप्लाई के ऊपर असर पड़ी, उसमें 12 को रेस्टोर भी कर दिया गया है और बाकी 4 में काम चल रहा है। हमारे 2437 गांवों पे असर पड़ा, लेकिन उसमें से करीब 2000 गांवों में बिजली की आपूर्ति पूरी कर दी गई है।
The senior official also said that the government has been able to make most of the affected roads motorable again.
सरकार शीघ्र ही सारे रास्ते को फिर से मोटरेबल बनाने का काम कल रात से ही चालू है और अभी तक हमारे 254 रास्तों पे असर पड़ा था, उसमें 156 रास्ता को मोटरेबल बना दिया गया है।
Near the shores of Mumbai, rescue efforts continued through the night and today by INS Kochi and INS Kolkata. Offshore support vessel Energy Star and great ship Ahalya joined the effort. A total of 177 personnel have been rescued from barge P305 so far as the search and rescue operations by the Indian Navy continued through the night. Around 111 people were rescued by INS Kochi and INS Kolkata and 17 were rescued by offshore support vessel Great Ship Ahilya. 18 people were rescued by naval ship OSV Ocean Energy while operating in extremely challenging sea conditions. Barge 305 has a total of 273 people on board. The search and rescue operations by the Navy are currently underway amid Cyclone Taukte. The barge Gull constructor with 137 persons on board has run aground about 48 nautical miles north of Kulaba Point. An emergency towing vessel Water Lily, 2 support vessels and CGS Samrat are in the vicinity for rendering assistance and evacuation of crew. INS Talwar is supporting and proceeding to render assistance to another oil rig Sagar Bhushan with 101 personnel on board and an accommodation barge SS3 with 196 personnel on board, both of which are adrift and presently located about 50 nautical miles southeast of Pipavav port. In Gujarat, several trees were uprooted, electricity poles fell and tin sheets and glass panels damaged, especially in the coastal districts. People have still been asked by district administration to not venture out of their homes. Besides that, regular updates are being shared on district administration's Twitter handle about the situation. Heavy to very heavy rains with winds were seen throughout the night at many places. Districts in Saurashtra are still witnessing strong winds. There is a wet spell across several districts of Gujarat. Ambulances are having a tough time attending to some calls for help because several fallen trees have blocked the roads. Response teams are working to clear the roads. In Maharashtra, Met Department has said that heavy to very heavy rainfall is continuing over North Konkan region including Mumbai. Rains will continue for a few more hours. In Rajasthan, IMD has forecast that light to moderate rainfall will take place at many places and heavy to very heavy falls and extremely heavy falls at isolated places over South Rajasthan today and tomorrow. Our correspondents are joining us now. Meghna Dev from Ahmedabad and Shishir Shelar from Mumbai. Meghna, coming to you first. How is the weather as of now in parts of Gujarat that have been worst affected? And how is Gujarat now tackling the aftermath of the cyclone?
Absolutely, Munmun, the entire effort is now on tackling the aftermath and mitigating the impact, which the government had already been trying to, the administration had already been trying to do from the past 7 days. And as you can see, there is a lot of storm, heavy rainfall. You know, I'm in Ahmedabad, and it was said that after 3 p.m. This intensity of the wind is only going to increase from now, and the wind speed before a few minutes, or we can say before an hour or half an hour, was 38 km per hour, but now it has definitely increased and is going to intensify even further till the evening. And the rainfall, which is continuous since morning and since last night, is going to continue, and heavy rainfall will be continuing across the district. And there have been several people in Ahmedabad itself who have been relocated to different places, and their antigen test has also been done before shifting them to the shelter homes that have been built. Over 4,000 people have been relocated. The hoardings had already been taken down, the posters, billboards had already been taken down. But when we speak about the aftermath and the impact assessment that has happened, when we talk about the impact assessment, about 40,000 trees have got uprooted due to the intensity of the storm and the cyclone. So, and after that as well, there are several roads that had got blocked, About 16 hospitals, the power was snapped, but the good thing is that in 12 hospitals, it got restored very quickly, and 4 hospitals are still on the generator, and the work for restoration of electricity is currently underway and would be restored in some time as well. The additional Chief Secretary of Gujarat for the Power Department has said no COVID or non-COVID hospital is going to face distress for electricity or power supply. So this has been said by the higher officials, and yesterday when I was there at the State Emergency Operations Center in Gujarat, which is created like a war room, and the work had been going on since last week. So there also we had seen that the hotline was working. There were several calls that were coming to actually inform about the situation, and now those calls have turned into calls about the restoration thing, and also of the clearing of the roads. The NDRF, not only in the morning but since last night, is on its toes and trying to remove all the fallen trees and electrical poles. Over 1,000 electrical poles have fallen. Also, besides that, several thousand kacha huts, about over 16,500 kacha huts, as if I can give you the number, approximately the kacha huts and houses have fallen down or have got destructed due to the intensity of the cyclone. But definitely all the district administration has been saying that people should not venture out of their homes till 6 or 7 p.m. and after that also this 24 hours is going to be very important. The impact of Cyclone Tauktae is going to be witnessed for the next 24 hours as well. Oxygen corridors, the green corridors that were made, those corridors are completely functioning because Gujarat is also supplying oxygen to neighboring states. So that is functioning. Ambulances are having a hard time to reach to the calls of distress. Also, to tell you about the casualties, Munmun, there were 3 casualties that the administration has informed us about. That 3 casualties have been reported. One in Vapi, one in Rajkot, where a kacha house fell on a boy, and the other in Garyadhar, which is a city in Bhavnagar. So all these things have happened somewhere near South Gujarat, Saurashtra and Bhavnagar, which is one of the districts along the coastline. So the districts along the coastline definitely are the most affected. But I am here in central Gujarat, and as you can see, intense storm as well as heavy rainfall has lashed the city, and not only in Ahmedabad but also in Gandhinagar and the nearby areas in central Gujarat have also been affected through heavy rainfall.
Right, Meghna, stay with us. Let's go over to Shishir Shelar from Mumbai. Shishir, what's the latest on the naval rescue operations?
Well, actually, yesterday the Navy has received an SOS, around in the afternoon, in the afternoon time. Well, the cyclone was actually moving from Mumbai towards the northwest region, towards Gujarat here when this incident happened here. They received a call from barge 305. Nearly 275 people who were working on the barge here immediately rescued Indian naval ship. Started rescue operation here and have sent INS Kolkata, INS Talwar and INS Kochi to this entire area. Now this barge is situated in the Bombay High area. The Bombay High area is one of the important and biggest assets of ANG, where most of the offshore drilling platforms are situated. The P305 is also one among them, where many people are working. As soon as the Indian Navy received a call from the barge that the barge have already got drifted in the sea, the Indian naval ship swung into action. Currently, nearly 177 people have been rescued from P305. But apart from that, there are 3 more calls the Indian Navy received. One is from Gal Constrictor, on which 137 people are working. The other one is, of course, the Sagar Bhushan. 101 people were working on it. And the other one is SS3, the offshore barge. Nearly 196 people were working on this entire barge here. So obviously, as soon as Navy received this call, they have swung into action. They have pressed the Indian naval ship also, along with some of the offshore vessel to rescue this operation here. And currently, if you look at the situation that we've got, that nearly 177 people from the barge 305 have been rescued. As far as the other 2 important barges are concerned, the Sagar Bhushan and the SS3, which has actually got adrift to almost 50 nautical miles to Pipavav. So obviously this entire rescue operation at this point in time the Navy is conducting. At the same time, they also got the help from the Indian air surveillance aircraft, that is P8I, and they also got the help from the Sea King helicopter. Well, currently nearly 3 people have been taken to the INS Shikara, that is the Indian Naval Hospital in Mumbai, and the naval the people are also officials saying that soon they will rescue more people from this particular barge and the operation areas, the oil platform where most people have been stuck here. Currently, if you look at the situation, especially in this entire region, because the same area from where the Tauktae cyclone was moving towards the northward direction, and that's the reason most of the happening we see in this entire area. Most of these platforms and the barge got adrift into deep sea, and that's why the Indian naval ship, along with the Indian surveillance aircraft, is also looking after the people, and especially this barge who have got deep into the sea.
Right. Well, thank you, Meghna, as well as Shishir, for joining us with those updates. Moving on to National Prime. In a landmark achievement with the dedication and tireless efforts of all the healthcare and frontline workers, India has recorded daily recoveries of more than 4 lakh COVID patients in a single day for the first time. 4,22,436 recoveries were registered in the last 24 hours. Average daily recovery of more than 3,55,944 cases has been recorded in the last 14 days. The graph below depicts the daily recoveries in the last 14 days. 2,63,533 new cases were registered in the last 24 hours. The daily new COVID cases are being registered in India, and they are less than 3 lakh consecutively for the second day now. A net decline of 1,63,232 cases has been recorded in active caseload in the last 24 hours. India's cumulative recoveries have reached 2,15,96,512 today. The national recovery rate has grown further to touch 85.6%. 10 states account for 75.77% of new recoveries. India's total active caseload comprises 13.29% of the country's total positive cases. 8 states cumulatively account for 69.01% of India's total active cases. The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has reached nearly 18.44 crore today under the phase 3 of the nationwide vaccination drive. A total of 18 crore 44 lakh 53,149 vaccine doses have been administered through 26 lakh 87,638 sessions. 10 states account for 66.7% of the cumulative doses given so far in the country. 6,69,884 beneficiaries in the age group of 18 to 44 received their first dose of the COVID vaccine in the last 24 hours. As on the 122nd day of the vaccination drive, which is 17th May, 15,10,418 vaccine doses were given. India continues to put up a strong fight against COVID-19. The country continues its mass-scale COVID-19 testing drive. As per the Indian Council of Medical Research, 18,69,223 samples were tested on 17th May, taking the cumulative total to 31 crore 82,92,881. Indian Railways is leaving no stone unturned in the fight against COVID-19. On the one hand, Railways is moving oxygen expresses swiftly with loaded oxygen to different parts. At the same time, it is continuing with the movement of passenger and freight traffic. Railways has geared up its in-house medical facilities as well. Railways has set up 86 oxygen plants for its hospitals. Indian Railways is leaving no stone unturned in the fight against COVID-19. And here are some details coming up next on the oxygen plants that are being set up. There are 4 oxygen plants that are functional, 52 are sanctioned, and 30 are under various stages of processing. Massive capacity enhancement is taking place in 86 railway hospitals across India. The number of beds for COVID treatment have been increased from 2,539 to 6,972. Invasive ventilators have been added and their number has been increased from 62 to 296. General managers have been delegated further powers of up to 2 crores in each case for sanctioning oxygen generation plant. Indian Railways continues to deliver a much-needed aid to the country amid the testing times of COVID-19 pandemic in the series. The 4th Oxygen Express, carrying 120 tons of liquid medical oxygen, arrived at Whitefield in Bengaluru from Tata Nagar today. So far, Karnataka has received 480 tons of oxygen by rail. BJP has slammed Congress, accusing it of spreading falsehoods on COVID-19 and the vaccination drive. BJP spokesperson Sambit Patra slammed the Congress party for preparing a toolkit to malign Prime Minister Narendra Modi's image globally. He said that the Congress party is seeking an opportunity to play politics even when the nation is gripped by the pandemic. BJP spokesperson also said that the Congress party itself believes that PM Modi has always been successful in handling all the crisis situations. However, it is considering the second wave of COVID-19 as an opportunity to malign PM's image.
कांग्रेस पार्टी का एक टूल किट चल रहा है कि किस प्रकार से ये जो महामारी है, ये जो कोरोना का पेंडेमिक है, उस पेंडेमिक में भी, उस विपत्ति में भी किस प्रकार राजनीति करनी है और किस प्रकार से भ्रम की स्थिति को उत्पन्न करते हुए कांग्रेस पार्टी अपने राजनीतिक मंसूबे को मजबूत करना चाहती है। वह इस टूल किट से पूरा देश आज कांग्रेस के मंसूबों को, कांग्रेस के इंटेंशंस को, कांग्रेस के जो भ्रम फैलाने की नीति है उसे जान रही है। कहीं ना कहीं कांग्रेस खुद ही मान रही है कि प्रधानमंत्री ने हर क्राइसिस को अच्छे से मैनेज किया, मगर ये जो सेकेंड वेव आया है ये एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है, ये हम सबके लिए एक मौका है प्रधानमंत्री जी के छवि को धूमिल करने के लिए, उसे ध्वस्त करने के लिए।
Sambit Patra also hit out at Rahul Gandhi and the Congress, accusing them of defaming India as well as PM Modi for the handling of COVID-19 situation.
हम देख रहे हैं कि विदेशों में पत्रिकाओं में किस प्रकार से कुछ भारतीय लोग ही अपने देश के खिलाफ, अपने प्रधानमंत्री के खिलाफ लगातार लिखते हुए नजर आ रहे हैं। आज हम समझ पा रहे हैं कि उसके पीछे राहुल गांधी और कांग्रेस पार्टी का ही हाथ है। कोरोना के समय किस प्रकार से हम मरीजों की सहायता करें, सेवा करें, या इस प्रकार से टूल किट बना करके अपने देश को अपमानित करें।
Padma Shri awardee and former national president of the Indian Medical Association, Dr. K.K. Agarwal, passed away on Monday after a long battle with COVID at New Delhi. The 62-year-old Dr. K.K. Agarwal was admitted to AIIMS for the past several days and was on ventilator support since last week. Dr. Agarwal was a cardiologist and the head of the Heart Care Foundation of India. He received the Dr. B.C. Roy Award in 2005 and the Padma Shri in 2010. Union Minister Prakash Javadekar extended deep condolences on the demise of Dr. K.K. Agarwal. Minister said that Dr. Agarwal will be remembered for his indomitable dedication towards public welfare. He saved countless lives with his undeterred efforts of reaching out to the masses to raise awareness amidst the raging pandemic. Om Shanti. Veteran BJP leader and former Union Minister Chaman Lal Gupta died after a prolonged illness at his Gandhinagar residence here on Tuesday. Days after undergoing successful treatment for COVID-19 at a hospital, his family said he had tested positive for COVID-19 on 5th May and returned from hospital on Sunday after successful treatment. His condition suddenly deteriorated in the wee hours and he breathed his last. The deceased leader had an illustrious political career spanning over 5 decades after he became a member of the J&K Legislative Assembly for the first time in 1972. He was again a member of the J&K Legislative Assembly between 2008 and 2014. He was elected to the 11th Lok Sabha from Udhampur constituency of Jammu in 1996 and re-elected to the 12th and 13th Lok Sabha in 1998 and 1999. Prime Minister paid rich tributes to the departed leader and said that he will be remembered for numerous community service efforts. PM tweeted, and I quote, Shri Chaman Lal Gupta ji will be remembered for numerous community service efforts. He was a dedicated legislator and strengthened the BJP across Jammu and Kashmir. Pained by his demise, my thoughts are with his family and supporters in this hour of grief. Delhi police announced a reward of 1 lakh rupees for information that would lead to the arrest of India's 2-time Olympic medalist wrestler Sushil Kumar in connection with the murder of 23-year-old wrestler Sagar Rana in Delhi. Sushil Kumar has been on the run since the death of Sagar Rana on the 5th of May. An FIR of murder, abduction and criminal conspiracy was registered against the senior wrestler. Earlier, Delhi's Rohini court issued non-bailable warrants against Sushil on Saturday. Victims in the case have alleged that Sushil Kumar was present at the spot when the incident took place. Following the action taken by Delhi police on Monday, Olympian Sushil Kumar applied for anticipatory bail in Rohini court. Court informed that it shall pronounce the order by 4 p.m. today. And at Midday Prime, it's time for news and updates from the world of business. My colleague Tanvi joins us now with Business Prime.
Thank you, Munmun. The domestic stock markets have again made solid gains on Tuesday. So after opening strong, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange remained robust and had shot up 600 points, so 1.2% to 50,181 a short while ago. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange had surged 172 points or 1.2% to 15,095. In the broader market, the BSE Mid-Cap Index zoomed 1.7% and the Small Cap Index spurted 1.3%. All sectoral indices are trading in the green, with the metal and auto indices adding over 2% each. The top index gainers are Mahindra & Mahindra, Bajaj Auto, Bajaj Finance, with gains of between 2.7 and 4.7%. The top index losers are Bharti Airtel, ITC, Dr. Reddy Labs and SBI, with losses of between 0.4 and 2.3%. Elsewhere in Asia, stock markets rose on Tuesday as well, shrugging off worries about an increase in regional coronavirus infections. So MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan rose 1.6%. Japan's Nikkei index surged 2.3% on solid earnings reports, and Hong Kong's key stock indices stocks climbed 1.3%. Back home at the interbank foreign exchange market, the rupee appreciated 7 paise against the US dollar in early trade on Tuesday, tracking positive domestic equities. Later, the rupee firmed up further and had appreciated 24 paise to 72 rupees 97 paise against the dollar a short while ago. At the multi-commodity exchange, gold had weakened 173 rupees to 48,301 rupees per 10 grams. But silver had strengthened 443 rupees to 73,767 rupees per kilo. And lastly, global crude oil prices rose on Tuesday as hopes of a solid recovery in fuel demand following the reopening of US and European economies offset concerns over spreading COVID-19 cases in Asia. So Brent crude oil was up 19 cents or 0.3% to $69.65 a barrel. US crude rose 18 cents or 0.3% to $66.45 a barrel. Analysts said that rising oil prices indicate the growing optimism of strong recovery in gasoline and other fuels in the United States and Europe in the light of easing of various pandemic-related restrictions. They also said that concerns about rising infections in Asia will be addressed as more and more vaccine jabs are given. So that's it in Business Prime for now. Back to you, Munmun.
Thanks, Tanvi, for that. And now let's have a look at what's making news across the globe. Shelling continued unabated between Israel and Palestine as Israel conducted airstrikes on Gaza, and Palestine retaliated by firing rockets at Israeli cities, resulting in civilian deaths. Israel attacked the densely populated Palestinian enclave, killed a top Islamic Jihad Northern Division commander in Gaza, Hussam Abu Harbeid, calling him the man behind rocket launches, shootings and anti-tank missile attacks on Israel. Israeli attacks left a crater in a 7-story office building, and Israel's military said that it was used by Gaza's Islamist rulers Hamas. Israeli Air Force fighter jets struck the main operations center of the Hamas internal security forces in northern Gaza. The operations center was a central part of Hamas's terror infrastructure as per Israeli forces. On the other hand, rocket barrages sent Israelis dashing for bomb shelters with direct hits on a synagogue in Ashkelon and an apartment building in Ashdod. The cross-border hostilities were accompanied by violence in West Bengal and riots in Israeli cities involving Arabs and Jews. With this, the death toll in Palestine has risen to 212, including 61 children and 36 women. 10 people, including 2 children, have lost their lives in Israel. Amid this, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel will continue to strike in Gaza as long as necessary. Israel's Prime Minister said that the country will do its most to avoid civilian casualties. Netanyahu has said that the directive is to continue strikes at terror targets. He said that Israel's defense forces have hit a Hamas naval unit apart from killing another senior Islamic Jihad commander. The Prime Minister of Israel said that Israel will continue to strike at underground infrastructure, including the Hamas metro and other targets. Israel will continue to act as necessary to restore peace and security to all residents of the country, he said. Meanwhile, United States President Joe Biden spoke to Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday over the ongoing war-like situation between Israel and Palestine and expressed his support for a ceasefire. According to the statement issued by the White House, Biden reiterated his firm support for Israel's right to defend itself against indiscriminate rocket attacks. Biden also encouraged Israel to make every effort to ensure the protection of innocent civilians. As per the statement released by the White House, the two leaders discussed progress in Israel's military operations against Hamas and other terrorist groups in Gaza. Biden also expressed his support for a ceasefire and discussed U.S. engagement with Egypt and other partners toward that end. The two leaders agreed that they and their teams would remain in close touch. Our correspondent Abhishek Jha joins us for more. Abhishek, neither side is showing any side of backing down. Take us to the efforts that are being made globally to broker peace between the two.
So, Mohammed, we have seen not only at the United Nations Security Council, which we see a couple of days ago, that there was this open discussion where both Israeli side, Palestinian side put forth their point of view. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres also urged both sides to scale down, to bring down the tension so that a peaceful situation could be created where the negotiation and further talks can happen. India and several other countries have also joined hands in asking Israel and Palestine to bring down the tension and ensure that a smooth and a negotiation could happen so that a peaceful settlement of the current conflict can be restored. We have known that this whole situation has been triggered with some latest event in East Jerusalem, but the history dates back to almost 100 years when both Israel and Palestinian settlers have been in conflict with each other. So it will be a little ambitious to imagine a very permanent solution of the ongoing conflict in a few days' time or maybe in a few weeks' time. But what world is trying to do is to bring both the parties on a negotiating table so that the current humanitarian crisis and the fatalities that we are seeing through the images and footages across the globe, which have been telecasted and been known, that could be brought down. Both the Israeli side and Palestinian side have suffered huge casualty. The number of casualty figures is no doubt very high on Gaza side, on Gaza Strip, where Israeli rockets have been pounding those residential portion where Hamas leaders are believed to be hiding, and this has caused a lot of civilian casualty as well. Almost more than 200 people have died. So the world is trying to persuade both the sides to scale down the tension, to scale down the conflict, so that a minimum short-sighted or short-term peaceful resolution could be achieved, where both the sides can be on a workable relation, and a future course of action where permanent settlement can be agreed upon can be ensued.
Right, Abhishek, thanks for that. Now it's time for stories from the world of sports. My colleague Suchitra joins us now with Sports Prime.
Thank you, Munmun. Let's start with some update from tennis rankings. Rafael Nadal remained third in the ATP rankings despite seeing off Novak Djokovic to win a 10th Italian Open title at the weekend. Nadal registered a 7-5, 1-6, 6-3 win over Djokovic, who stays top of the rankings. Nadal, a 13-time French Open winner, is behind Daniil Medvedev, who suffered a second-round exit in Rome to continue his struggles on clay. Real Madrid will miss the services of Toni Kroos for their last game of the season against Villarreal on Saturday after the German midfielder tested positive for coronavirus. The defending La Liga champions on Monday confirmed that Toni Kroos tested positive in the COVID-19 test he underwent. Kroos has been in isolation since May 14th after having come into direct contact with someone who tested positive for COVID-19, according to the official statement. The ICC has concluded its investigation into the documentary program Cricket's Match Fixers, broadcast by Al Jazeera on 27 May 2018. ICC has said that no charges will be brought under the ICC Anti-Corruption Code against any of the 5 participants to the code who featured in the program due to insufficient, credible and reliable evidence. The program alleged that 2 matches were fixed: India versus England in Chennai in 2016 and India versus Australia in Ranchi in 2017. ICC engaged 4 independent betting and cricketing specialists to analyze the claims. All 4 concluded that the passages of play identified in the program as being allegedly fixed were entirely predictable and therefore implausible as a fix. All 5 participants to the code who featured in the program have been interviewed by the ICC Integrity Unit, and there is insufficient evidence applied through the code to lay any charges. So those were some sports updates. Back to you, Munmun.
Thanks, Suchitra, for that. And before we leave, let's tell you that Eurovision Song Contest 2021 is all set to amaze people across the world this week. The 65th edition of the event is being hosted by the Netherlands in the Dutch port city of Rotterdam. Around 39 countries are participating in the contest. Before we end the show, we leave you with these glimpses of contenders practicing their acts. Take a look. Namaskar.
As the day unfolds and news and events take shape, we get you complete coverage of every news breaking in, tracking new developments as they happen. Midday Prime